What's up guys, it's Avery here. I was just about to send all of my information over to my accountant so that she could go ahead and do all of my accounting needs and file my tax return for 2021. But before I did that, I wanted to share with you my profit and loss statement from my 2 rental properties, or my 5 total units between my duplex and triplex from 2021. But first, if you're new to the channel, typically I'm talking about personal finance as well as investing in real estate. That's why I'm going to share with you all the numbers today that I have on my computer from both of my rentals, from every single expense I had, mortgage and all the other expenses, as well as every single dollar that I earned from both properties. If that sounds cool to you, make sure you stick through the end of the video, but first go ahead, give me a like so we can get started. All right, first off, we're going to talk about my 3-family and go through the house expenses and then each unit and then look at the total rent. And this is how I lay out all of my expenses as well as my rent for both of my properties. It's pretty simple. I have a house expense tab which would delineate any expense that was for the whole house, and then unit expense tabs for any expenses that were specific to the units. So in this year of 2021 that just passed, for the total house expenses, I had typically a water bill, which you'll get every single month. I had to check the HVAC one time, had to get the points fixed before I moved out. There was also some really big tree in the backyard that I was worried about falling over on the property, so I ended up getting that completely cut out. And before I moved out, I ended up getting some turnover help from someone else because I wasn't in the area, so that they could help the person move in, as well as one of the other apartments move in. So there was a lot of stuff there, so I had to pay someone to help me with that. And every single year I also get all of the heating systems serviced, so I think that's something that's very important that you should do in terms of maintenance. But if we add all of those things up, let's see how good my Excel skills here are on the fly. Ooh, that was smooth. So we had $4,726.44 from total expenses for the entire house. And I don't know if that's high or low. I've only owned this property for a year and a half, so we'll see how this works out from years to come. So next, I am going to look at one of the units, the rear unit that I used to live in, and all of the expenses that I've had. You can see there weren't very many expenses. A couple of these things I did before I left. I have this application fee because anyone who applies to my apartments, I pay them back the fee that they use to apply because I just feel like that's a good thing to do. And also technically in Massachusetts, you can't charge someone an application fee. So something to think about depending on the area you're in. So if we can sum those up, we get $233.80. So not that much for this specific unit. Now let's move on to the next one. And I actually had 0 expenses come from this specific unit. The year prior, I did a lot of renovations on this unit, including a total bathroom gut. So a lot of stuff was already finished from this unit, and the tenant never texted me having any issues. So obviously a pretty easy year for this other unit in the building. And then lastly, we have unit 2, which I had tenant turnover in this unit this year. And there were a couple of issues when the new tenant first moved in, namely the stove, actually the oven part of the stove was not working. So had to get them a new stove and ended up having to pay a pretty high installation fee just because you have to coordinate with the plumber who has to disconnect the gas for the installation company of the appliance to come pick up that appliance, and then they drop off a new appliance, and then you got to get the plumber to come back. And it was the weekend and my tenant was kind of unhappy because they just moved in, the oven wasn't working. So I wanted to make sure that I got it done quickly. So I paid the extra money to make sure that the plumber would do it on the Saturday. Not really a big deal to me. Also had a couple of other minor things and made sure before I moved out that there's a fire extinguisher in every single unit that I have. That's why there's that fire extinguisher cost there. I think that's something that's important to have. I put one next to the laundry as well as in each unit for all of the properties that I own. So we have a total here of almost $1,600. So that's my total expenses. So let's see if we can add that up in total, and I'll put it on the rent tab here. So let's create some little Excel here where we can have the total expenses. So let's equal house expense $4,726 plus unit 1R 233 plus, and we remember there was none for unit 1F, and unit 2 of almost $1,600. So Total is $6,558.75, and obviously those aren't my only expenses. Some other expenses that I have are the mortgage, and the mortgage is $39.04 every single month. So do some quick math, equals 3904 times 12. So that's $46,848. That is a lot of money for a mortgage, but that is what it is. So let's add these two things up here. We get a total of $53,406. And now just looking at the rent so we can see what we can offset this as. Obviously, I was living in this unit for the first 6 months of the year, so I was not getting any rent. And the reason July is $900 is because the new tenant who was moving in, who I actually really wanted them in compared to a lot of the other applicants, they were a really strong applicant. They weren't trying to move in until August, but the apartment was available in July, so we reached an agreement where the first month that they had was half off. So it worked out well for both of us. So if we add this up in total, let's see what we get. Oh, my Excel skills are deteriorating as we are on camera here. Let's see how I can do now. So $51,300, you can see this is a $2,000 loss on this property for the year, mainly because I wasn't getting any rent for the first 6 months, but I was also living for free. So see that as you will. I would think that next year that I will have a pretty similar amount of expenses, somewhere around that $7,000 range for regular maintenance and whatever, but we'll see how this actually pans out over the course of owning this building for 5-10 years, see if my actual cash flow of what I predict to be about $600 every single month is going to be true. For the last 4 or 5 months since I moved out, that $600, sometimes up to $1,000, maybe more dollars a month seems to be pretty true. I also hold just over $5,000 in each bank account for all of these properties, so I have that money as well as a buffer that I don't have on here. So now let's go ahead and look at the duplex. Again, we have the rental income here. That was pretty steady throughout the year. Did increase the rent for one of the units up over here, so that worked out pretty well for me. But let's start off with the house expenses. House expenses were pretty strong for the duplex this year because I did change out the hot water and heating systems, which was almost a $15,000 expense. You can see that right here. Boiler replacement deposit plus all of these boiler replacement costs. So that was, yeah, almost $15,500, actually about $15,500 when you remove that water bill from the addition here. And I also had to re-up my termite coring around the outside. I had to get a new dryer at the beginning of the year, switch it over to electric as well. It was on gas. One of the fences broke. I fixed that fence myself, plus typical water bills. And then also there was kind of a huge fiasco with the heat not working upstairs, even though the heating system just got replaced, because the people who put in the new heat ended up twisting the wires around, putting the wrong wires in the wrong spot, so it wasn't working. Had to get an electrician in. They took a couple of hours to figure it out, so that's why it ended up costing $225 for them to just switch the 2 terminals to make sure it was in the right spot. Kind of crappy, but I guess that is what it is. So let's total that up over here. What do we got? So $18,465, which is obviously a very high year for expenses. It probably would have only been around that $3,000 amount for the house expenses if I didn't have this massive capital expenditure that I incurred this past year. And looking at Unit 2, there were not that many things in Unit 2 this year. The very last day of the year, the tenant told me that the fridge did no longer work, so I immediately got her new fridge. I used to buy used appliances. I actually never do that anymore because I find that they break. Interestingly too about this fridge, I bought a new fridge making sure that it fits because a lot of these buildings in the Northeast are quite small and can't fit a lot of appliances. The new one I bought fit through the house just fine, fits in the space. The old one, they were not able to take out even after taking off the fridge doors, so it's still there and I have to get someone to cut it in half before they'll take it again. But other than that, there wasn't too many big issues in this unit. And actually the tub drain clean out was because there were a pair of boxers down the bathtub. I had to get an actual drain clean out company to come and take those out. Kind of a funny one, not really a big deal. I did let the tenant know that if some other type of drain clog happened like that again, that they would have to pay for it considering what was the cause for that clog. So we got $1,000 here in Unit 2, and in Unit 1, very, very minimal. When I was actually living in the area, there was an issue with a draft, so I ended up adding some new insulation and had to put drywall back up. So that was pretty minimal cost, as well as I put in 3 new light fixtures just before I moved out because I knew some of them were getting old. One of them had died, so I just thought I might as well fix the other 3 while I'm here because they were all really old. So we had pretty minimal expenses here. Total of $180.72, not too bad. So let's go to the total expense amount, and obviously we're gonna add up the mortgage again, so let's see what we got for that. Expenses from Unit 1, 180, plus expenses for Unit 2, years 2021, and we have whatever that was, 1,200 something. And the last one here, house expenses. So pretty strong amount of expenses, $19,714. Obviously, again, it's about $15,000 that I wouldn't have normally incurred. So you can see how that might differ from year to year. And the mortgage is $2,830 times 12. So we have a total expense of, that was wrong, equals that plus that. $52,674, so a pretty decent expense. Also, when I'm talking about this boiler that I had to replace, I was able to put it on a credit card, so I got about $1,250 worth of credit card travel, over 120,000 Chase rewards points, and also the state of Massachusetts gives you rebates for putting in energy efficient systems, so they paid me $4,800 that I will add to the amount of rental income that I'm receiving. So the total rent, let's see if we can do this here, for 2021, $54,660 plus the rent of this one and this one with the other income I got. So you can see about, well, what's the actual math? Minus 53. Almost a $6,000 positive amount on the building this year, which doesn't seem all super great, but if we got rid of that $15,000, it would have been closer to $20,000. And I say on this property, I get about $1,100 a month in cash flow, which would be, what is that? 11,000 times 12. Well, let's just do the math because we got it. So I'm projecting that I would normally get $13,200 on average every single year from this property. So you could see without that expense of the massive heating system cost, then it would have been a lot higher than that. So that's why it's a rolling average. In the last few months after I had that expense, I've been able to take closer to $1,500, $2,000 every single month from this account, because again, I also have that extra $5,000 in the bank account as a buffer, and actually closer to $6,000 for this one, just because of some of the expenses that I was incurring and how I wanted to feel about it, but that's really to each their own. So that's it. That's exactly how my rental properties performed this year. Let me know if you think it is worse or better than you may have thought. And in the first couple of years of ownership with rental properties, I will say I believe that there are going to be a decent amount of expenses. At my duplex, I have changed out the roof, fixed some plumbing, upgraded the electrical, as well as now have brand new heating and hot water systems. So my capital expenditure budget is pretty well taken care of for at least a couple of decades. So I feel quite strongly about that and getting strong cash flow from that property for a while. Same with my 3-family, I have a lot of things fixed. Before I purchased it, the roof was done over. The HVAC systems are from 2009, so they're not that old. One of the hot water tanks I'll probably fix preemptively this year because it is coming up on that 10-year anniversary when they usually get crapped out. And I also fixed the electrical, so there's a lot of good things that have been fixed, and I feel pretty good about the cash flow. They're quite well stabilized, and I'll feel like I'll start earning a lot more money as this year goes on, and I'm sure once we look at the end of 2022, hopefully that number will be a lot better than it is now. Plus, again, there's principal pay down. They've increased a lot in value and all of the other good benefits that are associated with property. And I can use any of these losses to offset any of the gains, plus offset some of my earned income from my W-2 job. So those are all also very good things when it comes to real estate. So hopefully you guys like this video. Leave a comment down below if you're looking to purchase your first rental property in 2022. Love to hear from you. And if you want to do that, go ahead and check out my free ebook that I wrote all about investing in real estate and buying that first house hack. That's also in the description below, and you can go ahead and check that one out. And if you like me here, don't forget to hit that subscribe button, and also like if you haven't already done so, and tap that notification bell so you don't miss out on any tips for investing in real estate. And if you like me here, don't forget to check me out on TikTok as well as Instagram, where I make same type of videos but in short form. So thanks again for watching, and more wealth is coming your way.